What's up, everyone, and welcome to the weekly Q&A. This week, we're going to take a look back at 2022 for the final Q&A of the year. Oh my god, no, you had that. Did you do that exact same thing last year?
I can't remember.
I feel like you did. You have to do a flashback.
Oh, I'm sorry, Hilo.
Yeah, now you scared Hilo. But yeah, we're going to take a look back at 2022 and another kind of short holiday-themed episode because we're still in the middle of taking a break before the Bad Batch starts back up in just a few days.
To start us off, Brandon Velasquez asks who our favorite new Star Wars characters are from the past year.
Yeah, I love this question. I mean, I always love asking other people who their favorite kind of minor Star Wars characters are, and some of them will be minor on my list, but not all of them. I was just going to start with B2 Emo. I think he's probably my favorite new addition to Star Wars this year.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of droids, I think, on this list, because obviously B2 Emo is probably on the top of both of our lists. But
I'm still just impressed that they can find new ways to make endearing droids. Like,
yes.
In my head, I'm like, what more can you do? And it was really just a couple little simple things, like the fact that he actually speaks instead of making beeps and boops. I was still like, hey, that's something slightly different that just makes me like him. I didn't expect that from him.
Yeah. And then on the other hand, there's Ned B, who doesn't speak at all, but still, I feel like was a standout character for me.
He speaks with his actions.
Yeah.
Even though he never got to use his hammer like you wanted, I know. Yeah. But yeah, you were a big Ned B fan. Speaking of hammers, I'll go over to probably my favorite Glup Shido of the year. My favorite minor background character from 2022, probably the Time Grappler. Just something about him and the simplicity. He's only in like 3 or 4 scenes, but from scene 1, you're like, what is this guy's deal? Like, this is his job. He tells the time, and he's obviously very passionate about it. I thought he was a really great use of a person to inform what Ferrix is and what it's like. And of course, we did actually get to see him not use his hammer, but use his feet to do his talking. Another character that doesn't talk.
Yeah. He participated, we'll just say that.
Yeah, and in a good way.
Yeah. Who else is on my list? Reva is another standout character for me. I always enjoy, like, dark side female characters, and to see her kind of like come through in the end and not be the bad guy anymore was nice to see.
And to not die immediately.
And she didn't die.
Yeah. So I think there's more to see and learn from her. It's interesting that you have a lot of characters from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Because I feel like we haven't talked about that one as much, but you still really, really liked a lot of the characters in it.
Yeah, I feel like for me, Obi-Wan and Anakin were obviously stars of the show, but they didn't make that show great for me. I liked Reva, I liked Little Leia. Little Leia is another one that's like near the top of my list. I don't know if that still counts because it's still...
I mean, you're skirting a line there. You walk carefully. You're on thin ice.
It's a new version of an old character.
I understand putting that on the list of just we have not been able to see Leia like this, especially in live action on screen. So I think that is appropriate to put on the list.
This is our channel. We can do it whatever we want.
We can do what we want. But for me to throw in an Obi-Wan character, I'll say Haja. I really liked Kumail's portrayal of that character, the fake Jedi, his overacting. I enjoyed a lot of elements of his introduction, and then to find out that he actually was a good guy at heart, and to have that moment come full circle at the end where Obi-Wan trusts Haja with Leia, and he makes some quip of like, I know I'm just a fake Jedi, but, and Obi-Wan's like, it's good enough for me. I really liked that moment between them.
Yeah.
For Book of Boba Fett, I'll throw out Danny Trejo's Rancor Keeper. I really liked seeing Danny Trejo in Star Wars.
Yeah.
I think he's a good cast. And I also loved that scene. We'll talk about favorite scenes later. But
okay.
I really liked his primary scene with Boba.
Yeah. Garsa Fwip is a standout one for me too. She was awesome.
For maybe another Glup Shido, I'll go with the Tusken Raider Warrior. She had some of the best action beats in that series. I feel like the Book of Boba Fett had some action moments that just didn't really land for me, but man, the train sequence was great. Seeing the Tusken Raider on that speeder bike, leaping off of it as it explodes, getting onto the train. And then there was like that comedic beat of her taking out the pike, popping her head up, and then just you see her going through the train, wrecking everyone.
Yeah.
That was a great moment.
Okay, so there's another character that this is going to be cheating, but hearing the new version of 8D8 speak.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Matt Berry's voice.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was another standout character for me.
I'll try to throw out some. Yaddle's not new, but this is the first time we've really been able to see her on screen in a major way.
And hear her speak.
Not just as a Glup Shido, but as a central character. Yeah. I really, really loved her episode in Tales of the Jedi. This one's a late edition. Also, kind of cheating. It's not new to 2022, but I want to get some publishing stuff in there. Seeing Porter Engle, the Jedi that was introduced in Phase 1 of the High Republic, but now we're getting to see him when he was a much younger man. And the comic issue literally came out this week, but it was great. I love seeing him young right now. He's known for being a great cook in Phase 1, but at this point, he's a terrible cook, but he's like dedicated to learning the craft, which is kind of his thing. He was also terrible at lightsaber fighting when he first started, and now he's the best of the best. So I'm really into his characterization now that we get to see him as a young person.
Yeah, I'm trying to think more about books and stuff. I feel like my favorite books of the year were like Shadow of the Sith and Princess and the Scoundrel, but those are all like characters that we already knew about. Are there any character names that stand out to you from those two?
Yes. I had to double check the character name, but Roog from Brotherhood, the Cato Nemoidian Special Forces character that kind of partners up with Obi-Wan while they investigate that business on Cato Nemoidia, she was great. A really, really different take on Nemoidians as we have seen them presented. Where they're kind of shown to be a caricature in the live action films, but Mike Chin really dug deep into everything about that business on Cato Nemoidia, and Roog is a big part of that. That I think it was more than just like it could be a very surface level story of what happened and filling in a gap from Revenge of the Sith, but no, like Roog made it very, very personal. And trying to think of, I really liked Kevmo and a lot of the characters in Path of Deceit. The villains, the Path of the Open Hand, are like love to hate them kind of characters, but they're interesting to watch at least.
They are very interesting. The mother character is a big one.
Yeah, good mystery surrounding her. And I also like Vildar Mack from the High Republic comic, who is just kind of an idiot, like a very headstrong. He just rushes into things without thinking and thinks he knows best and keeps making things worse. But he's still fun to watch. I'm like, dude, just stop and listen to everyone around you for a second. But it's nice to see a Jedi like that.
Yeah.
That they're not all perfect all the time. Sometimes they're dumb.
Framed Citizen wants to know what our favorite Star Wars moments were from 2022.
Since I kind of brought it up already, I really loved Boba Fett and the Rancor Keeper and the Rancor in the Book of Boba Fett. I feel like that third episode got a lot of flack because of the speeder chase, the scooter chase, which I agree was not the most exciting thing. But everyone was so focused on disliking that I was like, but the Rancor scene was so good.
Yeah.
I loved the Rancor scene and how it set up basically Boba Fett and the Rancor as like each other. That the Rancor is a metaphor for Boba Fett.
Yeah. Thinking about Book of Boba Fett, I think just the whole gaffy stick making process for him was another awesome moment from that show specifically. Just they did so much with the character of Boba Fett in that show that I wasn't expecting, that made me care so much more about him.
That moment is so earnest, and I love seeing familiar Star Wars stuff but explored in a different way. Like, all of these different cultures and people have a different relationship to the Force, and I viewed that Tusken ritual as like, oh, this is kind of part of their belief system. This is their spirituality. And the fact that crafting your gaffy stick has so many parallels with making your lightsaber, where you go on like this vision journey, and Boba Fett had to overcome parts of his past and his darkness so that he could find the right stick, and then like he was guided through its creation, like with Professor Huyang. I'm like, it's the same, but it's different, and so cool.
Yeah.
Obviously, Obi-Wan and Anakin dueling again. Gotta bring that up.
Just that whole thing with bringing the two of them back to be in a show, and then they had that showdown at the end. That was
the
perfect.
Showdown at the end, and also the flashback sequence. It was just great to see Hayden Christensen like back, and kind of on the meta level, seeing all of the celebration at Star Wars Celebration surrounding their return was really, really special.
I was going to bring up Star Wars Celebration just as a whole. That entire weekend as a moment was definitely up there for me.
I think if I had to say one specific moment from Celebration, it was Gungi's reveal. Gungi, the fact that he was back. We got to see so much cool stuff, but I just was not prepared for that. I was not prepared to be told that, guess what, Gungi's still alive. And the way I screamed in that auditorium.
Our meetup was a lot of fun, and as well as our podcast that we got to do. That had a full house for that, so that was awesome. Seeing real life Baby Yoda pop up on stage, I about passed out.
Even from like 800 feet away.
Yeah.
You were just like, you were in the
I
room
was like,
with him.
He's there. He is.
There he is. He's real.
He's there. He's there.
I'll text you the picture of you crying again if you want to use it. Tales of the Jedi, I think all of the Dooku stuff, if I can count that as one moment, but I thought that all of the Dooku episodes were great.
Mm-hmm.
The Yaddle moment specifically, if we're talking about just moments, Yaddle like raising the door back up.
Just getting to find out what happened to her and how that all went down was nice.
But that like refusal to let the light be shut out, even though it was temporary, that was such a powerful moment.
Yeah. For me, playing through Fallen Order finally was a lot of fun. Like I had kind of seen you play it, and I knew what the story was for the most part, but for me to play through it and figure out how much I enjoyed it was nice.
Watching you kill yourself as fast as humanly possible in that game.
Right away.
I didn't even know that was possible. Just immediate death.
I'll find a way.
I guess to get into Andor, I feel like I could talk about it a lot, but for specific moments,
one way out.
Never more than 12. B2 Emo getting tipped over and the entire explosion.
Yeah.
The whole funeral march.
Marva's speech.
Yeah.
Ugh.
It's hard to single out moments, especially as that series went on. I feel like the first 3 episodes, we were lucky enough, we saw it at the premiere, and we got to...
Oh, going to the premiere.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I mean, that's a...
That was insane.
Going to the Andor premiere, that was the first for us, so that was a lot of fun. And getting to experience those episodes with a room full of Star Wars fans who were a good audience. Sometimes I'm wary about that, but like they cheered at the right moments and then they got quiet again.
Well, I mean, all the actors were in there too, plus Kathleen Kennedy.
Yeah, that was all cool. Yeah, being in the room, we were like 20 feet away from Diego Luna and Tony Gilroy just talking about this series and their passion for it.
That was incredible.
But I feel like just go watch my Everything I Loved About Andor video that's nearly an hour long. There's so many moments in that series that really hit hard. But I feel like never more than 12, one way out, I can't swim. And then the funeral march to the end of episode 12 all count.
Yeah.
It all counts as one.
Jack Mountford asks what our top 3 Star Wars stories were from 2022.
So I kind of did this in yesterday's video, if you missed it, specifically my favorites of 2022, but I thought I'd open it up to Molly, and I can still obviously do my top 3, but...
I mean, okay, tell me what your top 3 was.
I didn't really put them in an order in the video, so
Okay.
I guess I'll have to do that now. I think it would have to be Andor.
Mine's probably not going to be in a specific order, but...
I don't know that mine will be either. I'm going to go with Andor. Trail of Shadows, that one was like half in 2021, half in 2022, but the final beats of that story, I think the final 2 or 3 issues happened in 2022. So I'm going to count it, and that's one of my favorite Star Wars comics ever. For the third, that one's tough. I might have to think.
So I have to put Andor in my list too. Like the whole season counts as a story, right? And so like just having Andor as a part of Star Wars is probably my number 1.
It's my number 1 for sure.
I mentioned it already, but Shadow of the Sith was a book that I loved so much more than I expected to. It was so fun getting to read characters like Luke and Lando from that time period. So that's definitely one too.
I do think that's my favorite book of the year.
Yeah. Does Rise of the Resistance count as a story? The ride?
Did that come out? I think that came out last year.
Well, we didn't experience it until this year.
That's true.
So that part of Galaxy's Edge for me counts.
And we only got to do it the one time.
Yeah.
But it was cool. Yeah, I think I kind of want to just lump like all of the High Republic together because I'm still super into that. But I'm trying to spread things out. If I have to go back to the series, I think I might go with the Dooku Tales of the Jedi stuff.
Chazertron 5000 wants to know what 3 words do we think sum up the heart of Star Wars in 2022?
One way out.
Yeah, never more than 12. That's too many words.
That's too many. 3 words. I wonder if it's maybe something like overcoming your past. There were a lot of stories about, like, we had Book of Boba Fett with a lot of flashbacks. We had Obi-Wan Kenobi with some flashbacks, but definitely about Obi-Wan getting past his failures and embracing the future. Andor had a little bit of that. I'm gonna stick with that. That popped into my head and I like it.
Use less volume. That's kind of negative, but after seeing Andor, it just made me wish that the volume wasn't used quite as much in a show like Obi-Wan, but I understand.
Yeah, we've harped on that plenty.
Why they did it.
They were kind of backed into a corner.
Yeah. Something, I'm bad at like summing stuff up in very few words, but like something about old stuff coming back, like the return of Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Past haunts you.
Yeah, sure. And for one question looking ahead to 2023, MC Lego Boy asks why some clones in the Empire were allowed to keep their personalized armor.
Yeah, so with the Bad Batch starting in just a few more days, we have seen some clones within the Empire, like Hauser, still had teal stripes on his armor. Cody, in the trailer, we've seen, has his markings, but they're gray now. Why is it that some clones in the Empire are keeping their customization, while it seems like most of them have just become regs, and they're just in their standard white armor?
Well, the real answer is so that the audience knows who they are specifically, but maybe it's like a reward for doing something especially awesome that the Empire wanted them to do. So like Cody took out Obi-Wan, or as far as they know, he did.
Yeah.
Kind of start that whole thing. And Hauser's just attractive, so
He just charmed them into letting him
yeah.
keep his... I love that...
They gotta make sure they know where he is specifically to keep him safe.
I love that the fandom has agreed that Hauser is the hot clone. And it's like, they're
Even though
they're identical.
They all look the same.
They all look the same. That's their whole thing, but Hauser's a hottie.
You know the other clones know it too, and they're
Yeah,
like,
they know.
They're like, man,
It's the hair.
what are we doing wrong? Yeah, it's the hair.
He's got great hair. I think that, first and foremost, it's for the audience. It's so fans can go, oh, it's Cody, but his colors have changed. I think that they are also trying to show a little bit of individuality. Like, I don't know, with Hauser specifically, he does not seem like a reg. At least like a post Revenge of the Sith reg.
Mm-hmm.
He does throw down his weapons. He questions orders and convinces some other clones to do that too. In the trailer, Cody mentions that more and more clones are questioning the order. So I think that his color markings being gray show that maybe there's still a little bit of the old Cody in him, but not quite who he used to be.
Yeah.
Like he's somewhere in between.
It could also be the idea of like specific people within the Empire want to keep an eye on specific clones.
We
to
gotta
see,
make sure we know
well,
who's who.
to see, you know, because of what Hauser ended up doing, throwing his weapons down, and you know, Cody may or may not do something similar. Yeah, they might just want to keep an extra eye on them.
I think that's a good point of like, because the Empire definitely won't look at them the way that most of the Jedi did, where it's like, you are each unique and we call you by your names. They're going to call them by their serial numbers.
Yeah.
But they're not going to be able to be like, that's the one we wanted to keep an eye on, right? So maybe, yeah, they're like, we
like,
got to keep an eye on that Hauser guy. Just let him keep the blue.
It's like having newborn twins. You got to put them in different colors, or write their names on their heads or something to know which one's which.
That's all the time we have for questions today. If you want to leave a question for next week's video, just put it in the comments below or sign up for Patreon to join our weekly Q&A discussion. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
And as always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.
Happy New Year!